Tracy? Oh. Good morning. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Good morning. Calling the roll for the Monday, January 3rd Board of Control meeting. It is 11:01. Nan Baker.
Here.
Dale Miller.
Here.
Joe Nani serving as an alternate for Purnell Jones.
Here.
Nicole English serving as an alternate for Mike Dever.
Here.
Lee Tucker serving as an alternate for the fiscal officer.
Here.
Catherine Takata.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Can we take a few minutes to review the Board of Control minutes from 12/20? If there are no corrections, I make a motion to approve the minutes from this meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next, is there any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, moving on to contracts and awards.
And before we begin, I'd just like all the department presenters to please put yourselves on mute until you're ready to present your item. Thank you. First item, BC 2022-01, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment to a contract with our engineering team, LLC, for general mechanical, electrical, and plumbing architectural and engineering services for the period October 23rd, 2018 through October 22nd, 2021, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2023, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $82,247.
Good morning to the board. This is Matthew Reimer with the Department of Public Works. This item is an amendment request to one of our general engineering consultant contracts. This contractor engineer is the designer of record for two of our ongoing construction projects, and thus the need for the amendment to continue our monitoring through the construction administration phases of the Jail 2 elevator modernization project and the animal shelter HVAC project, for which this vendor was the designer of record for.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing no questions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nicole English. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-02, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment to a contract with Robert P. Madison International Incorporated for general architectural engineering services for the period August 5th, 2020 through August 4th, 2023, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $160,000.
Good morning again, Matt Reimer with the Department of Public Works. This is a similar contract amendment request to one of our general architectural services contract to Robert P. Madison Incorporated. This contractor is performing the designer of record services for the expanded men's shelter for the new property located at 2020 Lakeside, adjacent to the existing men's shelter. We need this additional funding to continue the project to full design and construction administration completion.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing no questions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second. No.
Seconded by Mr. Nani. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2022-03, Department of Public Works, recommending an award on requisition 7657 and enter into a contract with Browning Ferris Industries of Ohio Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $380,000 for rubbish removal services at various county buildings for the period January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2023.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Public Works. This item, it's the award recommendation Browning Ferris, also known as Republic Waste. It's a 2-year contract not to exceed dollar amount $380,000. It's for rubbish and trash removal from various county buildings. This was a formal bid, went to 11 vendors, and we had 1 compliant bid submitted. It was evaluated. The to be awarded vendor is Browning Ferris Public Waste.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing no questions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Nani. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2022-04, Department of Development, recommending an award on requisition 6949 and enter into a contract with Housing Research and Advocacy Center in the amount not to exceed $250,000 for fair housing services for the period October 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2023.
Hey, good morning, Kate Vian, Department of Development. This is a 2-year contract. We're recommending with the Housing Research and Advocacy Center in the amount of $250,000 to perform fair housing activities within Cuyahoga County. This award recommendation is the result of an RFP. One proposal was received and reviewed by our review committee. This program provides and affirmatively furthers fair housing activities by conducting complaint investigations, discrimination testing, and conducting education and outreach to landlords, social service agencies, and real estate agents, and by providing training and technical assistance to local government and consulting services to Cuyahoga County. This contract is 100% funded by federal community development block grant funds.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Councilwoman Baker?
Just curious, is this a new, this is not a new program, this is a continuing program?
Correct, ma'am.
Thank you.
This is the continuing program, yes.
Thanks.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
A second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next
you.
item, BC 2022-05, Department of Development submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in a grant award to Project Boron LLC in the amount not to exceed $500,000 for the construction of a cold storage facility on the Opportunity Corridor roadway located at 2777 East 75th Street, Cleveland, for the period January 3rd, 2022 through December 31st, 2022, and recommending a grant award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning. This is Paul Herdig with the Department of Development. I'm also very pleased to be joined today by Tracy Nichols with Project Management Consultants and Christine Nelson with Team Northeast Ohio. We ask for your approval of this very important strategic investment in a key project located along the newly opened Opportunity Corridor. I would like to thank Tracy for preparing a brief slide presentation, which I am now sharing. Can someone please confirm that you're seeing the Project Boron slide presentation?
Yes.
Okay, great. I just wanted to show a picture. This is a very large cold storage building, also known as a food grade freezer, which is going to be constructed right on the Opportunity Corridor, and it's directly across from Orlando Baking. We'll perhaps in a minute come back to some of the details of what this public refrigerator warehouse is. Essentially, it's a drive-in cold storage facility that not only Orlando, but others can use. Just to show a brief site plan, the building sits directly south of Opportunity Corridor. And you can see the building itself. It has space for the vehicles to maneuver and so forth. Here's a sketch of where it's located. And you can see the green line here, this dashed line is the Opportunity Corridor final placement here. So it again sits, it's this little orange portion here right across from Orlando Baking. It's right in the middle of Opportunity Corridor. It's highly strategic to this area. Another very important thing to notice geographically is that this location's easy to access by public transit. We have both the red line and the green line stations in walking distance. And that's very important because the jobs this facility will leverage are jobs that are intended to be for disadvantaged residents of the east side of Cleveland, perhaps East Cleveland as well. It's going to leverage the creation of a significant number of jobs in the food manufacturing industry. Briefly here, when the Opportunity Corridor was announced back in around 2014, the roadway would go through. Immediately, neighborhood leaders, Burton Bell Carr and others, local elected officials, worked with the city of Cleveland, with Cuyahoga County, with our land bank, with foundations to say, we need to make sure this new roadway actually is a driver of economic development and actually does create jobs for folks in the local community. One of the major industries that was targeted for this job creation was food manufacturing. We already have Orlando and Maselli present there, as well as Pierre's, but by assembling land, getting it cleaned up, ready for redevelopment, and by most importantly, putting in this large freezer facility, this will encourage the growth of existing companies and also encourage new companies to come in and locate in the Opportunity Corridor area. In talking with Tracy Nichols, whose company is working with many potential developers in this area, even in the few weeks since this project was publicly announced in Cranes, she's received, she tells me, dozens of inquiries from potential occupiers of land, companies that would like to come and locate here, and is definitely already making an impact in terms of sparking industry to want to locate an Opportunity Corridor. This again illustrates some of the ways the food industry is central. And in terms of jobs, the project itself is guaranteed to create 20 new jobs in the freezer. We expect it will be at least 30 jobs to operate the freezer itself. These jobs will be with an operating company that's a partnership that Orlando's involved in along with Weston. But what's most important is that the new development we expect will be leveraged by having this freezer here and having the land ready will create additional hundreds of jobs for local residents. The 2014 study gave an estimate of 500 to 600, that's food industry. We think that's still quite accurate in terms of where we see this going. And in terms of financing, we provided this information earlier to the Board of Control. And I would note that there remains a financial gap which has emerged over the course of this year due to rising material costs, supply chain challenges caused by COVID. The project has been working all through the year to try to fill this gap. And we were approached just before Thanksgiving to support a request to the state of Ohio for some assistance. We learned recently, shortly before Christmas, that although the state of Ohio is going to be able to help, it's not going to be able to cover the full gap. And we were asked to consider, with a relatively short timeline, stepping in to help fill that gap. I'd like to address the question of whether our funding can be in the form of a loan. We have looked at the financial information provided. We have discussed with Tracy as the representative of the developers here, and we are persuaded that the project cannot afford to take on additional debt. This would reduce the rate of return for the developers below the acceptable 8% rate of return, which is a general industry standard. The developers still retain considerable risk in the project. This is not by any means a risk-free investment. And for that reason, we believe it is not appropriate to ask the developers to take on additional debt. While we typically want to do our economic development fund investments in the form of loans to preserve the capital, we do make exceptions in circumstances where there's very compelling reasons to consider grant funding. These are related to employment. And again, this project, it's not only the jobs the project itself will create, but it's the leverage this project has, which will, in our view, lead certainly to additional manufacturing opportunities, jobs along the Opportunity Corridor. So for that reason, the administration recommends an exception to our usual policy, making an economic development grant to this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Mr. Nani?
I have a couple. Oh, go ahead. Oh, okay. So real quick, you had mentioned that this is providing 20 jobs and that there's a guarantee that if they don't provide those jobs, the funds are returned, correct?
That's correct, Joe. We have
Okay.
a signed term sheet on that, yes.
So additionally, in your comments, you mentioned that there was some type of an effort to provide jobs for people that reside in that neighborhood. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is there a requirement for the number of jobs from the neighborhood?
Yes, there is, Joe. In addition to the guarantee that 20 new jobs will be created, we have separately, also in writing, an assurance that the cold storage facility operator will use its best efforts to hire from the neighborhood and best efforts to see that its workforce is at least 50% minority. And this is borne out. I actually received data from Orlando Baking. John Orlando sent it to me, showing his present workforce is over 50% from the neighborhood and over 50% minority. So we believe that this is achievable, and we appreciate the fact they've been willing to put it in writing.
But there's no reversion in terms of the like it is for the number of jobs, the 20 jobs.
The hiring will be a written agreement within the grant agreement. It will include best efforts, which is a standard that's used for this kind of endeavor, but it will in fact be reflected in writing in the grant agreement.
No, I'm just confirming that it's not the same as the language that is listed in there that says 20 jobs. If you don't hire 20 people, you got to pay us back. It's not that
That's
type
correct.
of strong language.
That's correct.
Okay, just
That's
wanted to
correct.
make sure. And then the dollar amount, I understand what you're saying relative to the, the hopeful creation of additional opportunities within the opportunity corridor, and that's why this is a grant. Are we then making this the decision that this will be the only grant we provide because this is all in, and we're saying that this is what's providing the impetus for future development? Or are we still keeping on the table the concept of going outside of our normal policy and providing grants for future projects?
Thank you. Joe, I do not want to flatly rule out the administration bringing proposed grants, but our approach to Opportunity Corridor is that this is very critical. It sets the stage. The area where we see the need for additional funding that may not be loan funding is in cleanup. So going forward, we're going to be supporting developers as they apply to the state of Ohio for the recently announced $350 million brownfield cleanup fund. We believe that's the area where funding needs to be brought in that can't be done in the form of a loan. Our approach to underwriting projects will be our traditional approach, which is we want to make loans out of our economic development fund.
Okay, and thank you. And one final, it might have been in the documents, but is the city of Cleveland providing funding on this?
Yes, I spoke with David Ebersol as the city's economic development director, and he briefed me that the city has already put in $700,000 more than the amount it's selling the land for. So in order to assemble the land, to clean up the land, to clear title and so forth, the city is already putting in over $700,000 of funding that is not being returned to the city.
So that it was in essence a grant, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Miller?
Since you presented that the developers were taking considerable risk in this project, what guarantee do we have that against the county putting up its $500,000 and it ends up being lost in a project that fails?
Thank you, Councilman. We will structure the grant so that our funds are a reimbursement of actual purchase of materials for the project. So we will not be releasing our funds except as reimbursement of that cost. Our underwriting of the project indicates that the developer has the capacity to complete the project as planned. You know, Weston is an experienced developer. It has estimated its costs accordingly, so that the risks that exist are not risks of site control or of inability to have the contractor complete the project. So while there remains some operating risk in the project, we are also given further comfort by the fact that Orlando Baking is taking the first 40,000 square feet of the space and is itself assuming investment in the project. So we see both of these well-established companies, Orlando and Weston, being willing to put their own money into the project, which indicates the chance of success is great.
What other cold storage facilities are there in Greater Cleveland, if any, and whatever became of that big old cold storage building that you used to see coming into downtown on the freeway?
Councilman, with your permission, I'd like to at this point ask Tracy Nichols to speak to this, having done extensive research on this as part of the project development.
Thank you, Paul. I can tell you that there are no cold storage facilities available within a 6-hour drive of Cleveland at this time. Orlando currently is using cold storage in Columbus because that was the only space available, and they have no more space there to grow. In addition, the building that you speak of was purchased by a company, an owner, who then thought they were going to use it and proceeded to break some walls and do some other things. It became structurally unsafe due to fire concerns. And so it was never redeveloped. So there was some legal issues as well, but the people who bought it didn't know what they were doing. I worked at the city of Cleveland at the time and met with the fire department and found out that what they had done made the building unsafe for fire. It wasn't about sprinklers, it's about where they had put holes, et cetera. So that building ran into some issues. In addition, it is not up to current modern standards. So this will be the only facility. And I will tell you that other states are trying to develop a similar facility. South Carolina has something going on right now. It's something that is needed across the country, and there's very little available in our region.
Any additional questions? Councilwoman Baker?
Sorry, you want me to speak right in there? Okay. A couple questions. The state of Ohio, you're anticipating that they will be contributing, is that what I heard?
Yes, thank you, Councilwoman. With permission, I'd like to ask Christine Nelson from Team Northeast Ohio to address that.
Thanks, Paul. Yes, so Team NEO is Team Northeast Ohio, is the Jobs Ohio regional partner here in the region. We've been working with the company and the developer extensively, and also working in the Opportunity Corridor Job Hub development through some time. We are still in discussions, but I can tell you that where we are right now is at 4 times the magnitude of the grant that we're asking here, or the developers asking here from the county. So there will be significant investment from Jobs Ohio into this project specifically. We see it as a real linchpin in the middle of the corridor to really help us get this, the rest of the development started and be able to attract new investment in. We knew all along from seeing other developments like this happen across the region, the state, and the country, that you need that early first adopter to be a local company. And then that starts to build the proof that this is an investment, that can go forward, and that helps us at Team NEO and at Jobs Ohio in being able to attract additional companies in. So we are still talking about the exact dollar amount, but we know it will be significant.
Thank you. The total cost of this, is it 32 million? Is that what we're looking at? Or what is the total cost of this complex or storage?
That's correct, Councilwoman. And it's slightly over 31 million. And then in the presentation I provided to the Board of Control, I added in the $700,000 that, as I indicated earlier, the city of Cleveland has placed in the land preparation. And so that does bring the total slightly over 32 million.
So if the state of Ohio, undetermined amount, and we already know what the total is, does our 500,000 decrease, or how do you make up for funds that are not yet committed, but you have a total price?
If I may speak first, and then I think, maybe others can assist. It is our judgment, based on having discussed this with the developer, with Tracy representing the developer, and also with Team NEO representing the state, that there will be a solution that will be sufficient to let the project go forward. We can't speak publicly to everything that's been discussed, but I can tell you that in the private discussions, there's been thorough understanding of what the project needs to go forward and commitment by the state of Ohio to make sure the project does go forward. I don't know if Tracy would like to add to that.
Yes, Councilwoman, I will tell you that if the state provides us with any amount of money above 2.5 million, we will reduce the amount that we are seeking from the county dollar for dollar. So our gap is 3 million. If the state gives us more than 2.5, we will reduce the amount from the county. We should have the state number within the next week. We thought we would have it by now, but as I said, if the state goes over 2.5 million in the amount that they provide us, we will reduce the county grant by any dollar for any amount above that.
Okay, so if I'm reading your list under sources, the additional financing of 2.5 million, that's the gap that you're hoping the state will fill in? Is that what I'm understanding?
Our total gap is 3 million, 2.5 million we are anticipating from the state and 500,000 from the county.
Okay.
If the state goes over that amount, 2.5, then we will reduce the county amount.
Okay. I see that now. And I'm just curious, is there a reason why this wasn't presented to the Economic Development Committee? I mean, this is a pretty big 32 million, and 500,000 is a considerable contribution. I'm just wondering why it's here in Board of Control.
Thank you, Councilwoman. There, in fact, is a timing issue here. As this developed quite rapidly in December, and there is a concern that there was some materials that if the developer was not in a position to have some certainty about support by very, very, very early this year, it would jeopardize their ability to get the materials at a price that would be reasonable for the project. So there simply was not time in this case to bring this through the normal county council process.
Okay, if I just may. So with the uncertainty of the state of 2.5 million, that uncertainty still allows us to move forward? There's enough that they feel that number will come through? I mean, our portion's only 500, shouldn't say only, but our portion is 500,000. Where is the certainty? Yeah.
Sorry. We believe so. Tracy, can you speak to that, please?
Yes. So we should have the state offer within 7 days. We won't have signed a contract with the county until we know that we have all the funds in. So I will just say to you, we have a limited period of time, a few more days, where we need to sign a construction contract or the project goes up by $1.5 million. So the state is aware of that. They have told us they will get us an answer within this week. And so that should bring us to the point where we'll have our total funding in, and then we'll be able to move forward. But we will not sign a contract with the county until we have the full capital stack, ma'am.
Okay, I guess I would just ask that if we're approving this today, that the chair of the Economic Development Committee get an understanding of what it is we did approve today. And if he feels that a committee is needed, even if it's after the fact, this is a pretty big project. Sounds like it could expand into more projects. And I think it should be, it may be something he wants on his radar. So I would ask, as a member of that committee, I would ask that at least he be briefed.
Will do.
Thank you.
Additional questions?
Further questions? Are we confident that state support is going to come in at not less than 2.5?
We are optimistic that that will be the case, and we will find out this week, and we will work hard. We've made a very strong case as to why we need it, and so we will immediately notify Director Hertig as soon as we are aware of the state amount.
So if the state amount comes in at less than 2.5, what are we going to do about the gap?
Well, that would remain to be seen, but I will tell you that we will not go forward with the county grant, until we have a complete capital stack. So we won't be trying to get money from the county if we can't get the whole project done. So that is very important for us to have a full capital stack.
And what is the exact deadline for getting this together and not having to pay an additional $1.5 million for construction?
January 14th.
That's pretty tight.
Yes, it is, and we wish it was not, but that's where we are at this point.
Okay.
Any additional questions?
Just, so just to be clear, the documents indicate that the state of Ohio is a grant. And that is I mean, what if the state comes back and says they're gonna give you 1 million in a loan and the rest in a grant? Is the deal still on?
That would be a problem for us for the
Okay.
same reason, the county doing a grant versus a loan.
Okay,
But we have been led to believe that the state is considering a grant. We won't know till we have the documentation.
okay. And
We
just
are
a
not considering a loan at this time.
okay. I mean, just a concern about the state funding, and I'm not trying to be difficult here, but I believe we're still waiting on an answer for the Guardians dollars from the state of Ohio also. So if this is gonna be somehow impacting this project and the 1.5%, what's the guarantee that we're gonna hear back on this and we still haven't heard back on the Guardians?
As I said, the developer is not going to move forward on the county grant unless we have a full capital stack. The state money is required to allow the project to move forward. So the developer is not going to go forward with the county grant until we have that. We have been led to believe that we will have final information in the next 7 days. So
Mechanically, what do you need from the state of Ohio for a guarantee? I'm just curious what the process is at the state of Ohio to give the confidence in the project that it'll move forward. Is it a letter or is it actual cash in the bank?
no, it's going to be a letter. They'll
From
give us
who?
an offer letter.
But from who has the
Jobs
authority
Ohio.
to send that?
Jobs Ohio.
Okay.
Jobs Ohio.
But is there like a
They're an
name?
outside entity. Jobs Ohio, well, it would be Diana Reif and Terry Slaybaugh are the two people who are assigned to this project for Jobs Ohio. And Christine is assigned locally as the person, Christine Nelson.
Okay.
So,
So
but
unlike what
different
we're
from the
doing,
state.
but unlike what we're
Yeah.
doing here is having a legislative or quasi-legislative body approve this, it's simply a letter from the state of Ohio.
It's Jobs Ohio, which is an outside.
From Jobs Ohio, I meant to say, but
Right.
that's all you need.
Right. That is correct.
So I'm just playing this out. I apologize, but couldn't a letter from
No,
Paul
no
Herdig?
worries whatsoever.
Couldn't a letter from
Ask
Paul
all
Herdig?
the questions.
Couldn't a letter from Paul Herdig be enough? And then when the state of Ohio dollars come through, then we act as a body?
Well, it's a little bit different because with Jobs Ohio, it's not a government entity. So it's a little bit different.
So I'm
Getting
just,
approval-
it seems like a letter
Yeah.
is enough for the project for one.
So if I may, Joe?
Yes.
The difference is that Jobs Ohio, because it is independent, has the legal authority to make this commitment. It does not have to have it ratified by anyone else. Whereas as you know, sir, in our form of government, it's the Board of Control that has the authority to make this an official authorized commitment.
Yeah, I'm just expressing frustration because we're being told by Jobs Ohio that it's a done deal, but it's not a done deal. And I just like to have done deals before it comes here for this body to vote. That's all. If it's so much easier on the Jobs Ohio side to get a letter, why isn't the letter here? And why is it that we're the ones that have to act quickly? That's all. I'm frustrated as usual. Yeah.
And we had anticipated that we would have the letter before we got here. So I apologize for that. But because of holidays, COVID, whatever, it did not come when we expected it to.
If I may,
Councilman Baker,
if, given this is not going through committee and it is at the max of what Board of Control is allowed to offer, and you're pretty certain that you're going to get the 2.5 million in a grant, can we have this approval pending that grant? Pending the state's letter of commitment before we,
May
I
I make
would-
a recommendation, please? It'd be my recommendation that the Board of Control amend the resolution to indicate the county's commitment is conditional on a grant from Jobs Ohio adequate to sustain the project being received by the project.
It's better.
It's better, but I'm just curious why we wouldn't put the 2.5 number in there. I mean, that's what we need to get the job, the project done, but I'm not gonna argue it. Yeah, I mean, the 14th is the day that they're supposed to reply by. I don't know why we're not doing this on the 14th. Yeah.
That is
don't know
not
if
the
we have
date
enough
they would
time.
respond by. That is the date we have to sign a construction contract. This is an urgent situation.
Not to the state.
Do we have a construction contractor chosen?
The contractor is ARCO.
The 14th is prior to the next meeting of this body, which is the 11th.
Can you advise again what's the January 14th date? Is it the date that you have to have a full signed contract by all bodies or all parties?
The 14th is the day we have to make a decision on the construction contract. That's going to take a lot of work in advance prior to that. The 11th is not going to give us enough time to know that we have this done and we can get all those other things in line. We appreciate what the county is doing here. This is a project that has great impact for the region. And we appreciate it, but we are working very diligently with the state. That's our final thing. Then we have to get all these contracts put in order before the 14th to make sure we can get this done.
I think that the amendment was well taken, and it could be that the state comes in at just a hair under 2.5, and everybody takes a look at it and decides that it's close enough. You know, so I'm gonna move that we amend the item and add the condition as presented by the director.
Go ahead.
Is that, or did you need to vote on the? No.
No, you can
Okay.
do your question, then we'll vote.
I'm just curious on the sources listed on our backup from the questions that we asked. It says State of Ohio grant to be determined, but then 2 lines later it says additional financing, 2.5 million. Why is that listed as 2 different items when it's really the same? That 2.5 additional funding, financing is the state grant that you're hoping for? Is that just?
If I may, Councilman, having written it up, we are mindful in working with Team NEO and Jobs Ohio that there's a need not to necessarily create a full public record on matters that haven't yet been fully decided. So we felt it was important to note that the amount of the state offer has not yet been officially determined and not put anything on a public record that would suggest that that figure had been finalized.
But in reality, it is one of the same. The State of Ohio grant, you do need 2.5 million. Is that, I mean, that's not just a number.
Yeah, as has been discussed this morning, that is the figure that's being targeted, yes.
Okay, and when approved, because you're optimistic that it will be, that 2.5 million then will go into the slot that says State of Ohio grant.
Yes.
And the other line will disappear.
And the other line will disappear.
Yes. Correct.
Any additional questions? Okay.
Just a question. I know Jared is on the line here. Is that amendment satisfactory from a legal standpoint?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that before you guys vote on it, that Sharon reads it back, because there was a little bit of words. So if we can just read it back, then I'll be a lot better, but we're fine with that.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to give conditional approval of the grant award upon approval of state funding. Is that correct?
And Sharon, if I may, what I said was in an amount acceptable to the project to allow it to move forward.
If I may on that, we've already determined that what's needed is the 32,326,000. So what number would be determined needed if it's not 2.5 million? You don't reach your goal of 32 million if we don't get the 2.5 million. It can't be 2 million or 1 million. Certainly won't be over that amount. So why is it that you won't commit the number that's really needed contingent on our 500,000?
I think Councilman Miller said it best.
Yeah.
If the state comes in slightly under the 2.5 million, the developer has to make a decision on whether or not they can move forward. So I appreciate the director amending it to indicate acceptable to the project to allow it to move forward or adequate to sustain the project, whichever amendment you put in there. But if it comes in at 2.95 million, for whatever reason the state may do, that $50,000 out of 31 point whatever million is going to be, something that the developer has to make a decision on.
Can I ask just a separate question? I apologize, because I just want to go back to one thing. The letter from the state of Ohio, are we saying that the legislature, the governor's office, nobody within state government needs to approve these funds?
Again, Jobs Ohio is set up as an independent agency.
I understand
Which-
that, but at some point in time, does the request ever go back to the state for final approval?
My understanding, no. Christine,
Okay.
can you clarify?
It does not, this is not state dollars, so it is Jobs Ohio dollars, so it does not require state approval.
Where'd the funds come from?
Liquor profits, so the state, Jobs Ohio leases the liquor business from the state.
Gotcha.
All this go to the state, and if profit sharing is in place with the state of Ohio, but those additional profits up and above that are what fund economic development in Ohio.
Okay.
Any additional questions?
I'm fine with the amendment, but.
Do you want to recap again, Sharon?
Sure. Department of Development, they're submitting an RFP exemption and recommending a grant award to Project Boron LLC in the amount not to exceed $500,000 for the construction of a cold storage facility on the Opportunity Corridor roadway located at 2777 East 75th Street, Cleveland, for the period January 3rd, 2022 through December 31st, 2022. Approval is conditional upon state funding in an amount acceptable to move the project forward.
Thank you. Councilman Miller made the motion to approve. Councilwoman Baker made the motion to second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved based on the condition. And also, we're going to get a briefing to the Economic Committee Chair. Thank you. Okay, next item. Sure.
Given the date coming up in a week and a half, I'd like for a brief update to be provided at the next meeting of this board as well.
Sure thing. Next item.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Border Control.
Sure.
Did we vote to approve it?
Yeah.
I know we voted to amend it.
No,
Did
we
do a
voted
second
to,
vote to
we,
approve?
Councilman Miller made a motion to approve. Oh, okay. Well then, okay, let's go
approve the
back to the, as amended. I make a motion to approve as amended. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next
Okay,
item.
Next item, BC 2022-06, Department of Human Resources submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to WB Mason Company Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $495,000 for the purchase of 33,000 individual COVID-19 rapid test kits for testing services for eligible employees at various county buildings, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Stephen Witt with Human Resources. This is a RFP exemption request resulting in a purchase order with WB Mason for the purchase of COVID-19 rapid tests, not to exceed $495,000. These tests will be used to help implement a testing program to test unvaccinated employees at county locations. It was determined that an RFP exemption with WB Mason was the best way to secure quality tests in the quantity that are needed as quickly as possible so that we can get this program implemented as quickly as we can. The county will be purchasing Intrivo on-go test kits that utilize a companion smartphone app that will ensure that the test kits are not reused or fraudulent, as the employees have to scan a barcode on the tests, as well as take a picture after the test of the result of the test. Those are then uploaded to a database that the county has access to track the tests and the results and ensure that those who are supposed to be testing are testing and take appropriate response when needed. Our research showed that the costs per test is comparable with other tests on the market. Other tests may be slightly cheaper, but they don't include that companion app and the extra security for the testing that we found puts this test above and beyond the other tests available. We considered it a formal RFP or RFB process, but due to the rise of the Omicron variant and the current surge that we're going through, we decided to move forward as an RFP exemption so that we can secure these tests without any kind of delay.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
Yes.
Councilman Miller?
I've seen rapid tests at the supermarket for $7 or $8, which is like half of these, and you would think that that if we're buying 33,000 of them, we'd get a county, we would get a quantity discount. Am I making an apples to oranges comparison here beyond what you said about the security features?
So we have.
Councilman, this is Bob Corey, Public Safety Chief. We, at the same time that we're making this request to the Board of Control to address the same concern that we have about pricing, which I'm not happy about, $15 a unit. And we negotiated that down from at one point $17 or $18 a unit. We are also going to put out an RFP helped by the Medical Examiner's Office for the entire county so that we can continue to get the best pricing for the product that we get. You're correct that it's not quite apples and oranges for two reasons. It seems from when we're reaching out to vendors that you're almost penalized because of the supply chain issues with regard to testing that the entire country's facing, that sometimes at the consumer level, they get a better price on their sites or at the store than we get when we say, okay, we want to secure 33,000. They understand that enterprises need these sites to, run governments, businesses, et cetera, and they're not willing to give us any breaks. And they were not willing to give us any breaks below what they posted on their, what OnGo posted on their site that you can go to and purchase the test kits. They did say that they would continue to address pricing reductions as they come up to scale. So I'm not counting on it. The price is $15. And to your other point, the reason why it's not quite apples to oranges is because with the enterprise software, it allows you to, at the point of use, allow the employee to report to the human resource department the fact that they've taken a test, the fact that they've taken a valid test, the results of those tests, all in a guided application that comes with a cost because the enterprise software is not available to anyone who buys it at the store. It's only available to us because we're buying in such a large amounts. And that's why you see the premium of $15 a unit. It also enables the HR department to do compliance using a web-based interface at their disposal without any additional requirements for department heads to collect the data on Excel spreadsheets, provide that to the HR department then the HR department either has to upload the spreadsheets to some access database and then manually monitor who's followed the policy and who hasn't. So I guess it's in the eye of the beholder what you think that enterprise software is, the guided application that ensures a quality control, that is, that there's real compliance and that they're not taking pictures of old tests because of the barcoding requirements. But nevertheless, we're not happy with $15 a unit, and we're still going to put out an RFP because, as you see, that our request would only secure enough test kits, assuming 2,000 people have to be tested a week. And that's an assumption based upon various factors I can get into, that only gives us 17 weeks of testing. So, and that only allows for testing of those that are unvaccinated. At some point, the policy could shift, given Omicron, to surveillance testing of vaccinated folks, because we know that vaccinated folks, given Omicron's highly contagious nature, can get the vaccine, get the disease, then transmit while they're asymptomatic. And so you might want to use the test kits additionally for surveillance testing of vaccinated folks. So we will put that RFP out and see if we can continue to do better on pricing in the coming weeks.
And what happens if an employee doesn't submit test results?
In the first 30 days of the program, and I know Chiba Marshall's on the call, and we're going to give everybody an opportunity to get used to the program, require that they do it. So if they don't submit in the first 30 days, we're going to presume them to be COVID positive because of the safety implications. And they will be not permitted to work, and they will have to take any available leaves under current policy. After the 30 days, effective February 1st, yes, after the first month, then discipline will kick in, such that if they fail to follow county policy, they'll be subject to discipline consistent with the HR handbook and any collective bargaining agreements.
Okay, thank you.
Baker?
Is there any concern, Mr. Corey, that we're spending good money after bad? Because it is pretty well proven that breakthroughs are more commonplace more now than ever, and that passing on people who are vaccinated and even have the booster have been proven to also get this virus. So I wonder if I understand the unvaccinated are the highest level of concern, but if we're not vaccinating, or if we're not testing everyone, which might be, we may not be able to do it, but still understanding that there are reasons why that may not be enough.
We could not agree more with you. That is with Omicron, which we began this process and this review and the interviews of all the vendors and the products before Omicron was here, which was only November. And as Omicron continues to develop and there's questions about its contagion among those that may have the booster, because boosters are still late in coming, your point is well taken. And that's why I think here what we're trying to say, even at this early stage of a real understanding of Omicron's impact on vaccinated with the boosters, that the enemy of the good is the perfect. And so we know that if we surveil those that are unvaccinated, which, as you put, are the most likely to get it over the vaccinated, and two, most likely to get really sick over the unvaccinated, which impacts our bottom line with regard to cost of healthcare, folks missing work, because right now the CDC has lowered for those vaccinated that come in exposure, the quarantine period just 5 days now, and then they could, as long as they're asymptomatic, they can be released back to work with a mask, which is what we require. We think that first testing those that are most vulnerable, most capable of spreading, and then have the highest opportunity to have to become sick from it, we should still move forward. Then we saw, for example, in the Franklin County program, Councilwoman, that when they instituted this program for unvaccinated, and our program isn't identical to theirs, they saw a steady reduction of those unvaccinated. They saw a steady increase, conversely, of those that were vaccinated. And it was correlated right with the commencement of the program. And so we're hoping to get the same kick that by instituting this program targeting unvaccinated people, we will also see an increase in those getting vaccinated, much like Franklin County did.
Thank you for that. I just seems like we're chasing something that is not within our control with the new breakthroughs that are coming through. Also, it seems that from what I'm hearing, this is a surge that perhaps will peak by the middle of January, and we may be on the back end of it by the 1st of February, and that we may not really know why, whether it's because we're testing or whether it's because it's just diminishing, but there's just a lot of uncertainty. I was just asking how you're managing the breakthroughs of those that are vaccinated.
From what we're being told, from what, and by the CDC, by Dr. Fauci, we should see a reduction in the surge by the end of January. I mean, that's what they're saying. And we saw that in South Africa, that it peaked and then it valleyed. I think all the medical experts are suggesting that too. But at the vaccination rate that we have, keep in mind that we were going to advocate for this program and request these test kits before Omicron, at the then rate of infection. Omicron has only made it more urgent. What I would submit is that unless the vaccination rates change, not only for our county workers, but for the county and the state of Ohio, we're going to continue to see the same high numbers, those that are well in excess of what you'd want to see, a 50 per 100,000 people tested. And as such, we still think that vaccination requirements, testing requirements, and social distancing and masking are still the gold standard for fighting COVID.
Thank you for that. The on-go test, that has a 95% accuracy, is that correct?
Yes, when you look at the two factors, I think they average them together, which I don't quite technically understand. They do have emergency use authorization from the FDA, and they report the 95% accuracy, and that reporting was done at that accuracy rating was done at the time that they received emergency use authorization. So it is one of the higher for accuracy, and the rapid tests are highly accurate, but they're not as sensitive as the PCR testing. But still, that is a very good accuracy rating as compared to other vendors.
Right, so could that be perhaps a reason why we're paying up to $15, because the kit itself is more accurate than perhaps what we could buy off the counter?
I think it's the enterprise software. I think that's the real thing. That's their big selling point. That's their big selling point, the enterprise software. And I think I've used the application 3 times. I've used the test kit together with it. I've tested somebody else, and it's pretty slick. And to be able to upload that information where the human resource manager just from their laptop can monitor compliance, I think is pretty compelling. But I don't know where the costs are really. I mean, I'm speculating.
The turnaround for knowing the test results? I heard 15 minutes, is that,
15 minutes.
so you would know?
A few minutes to take the tests. Let's round up to 5. And then it takes full 10 minutes for the test to work its magic and then show the 1 line or the 2 lines.
Good, okay, thank you for
And
that.
if you've ever used like the Binex Nows or the Quidels, pretty much the same way, works the same way.
Good, thank you.
Are there any additional questions? Mr. Nani?
Do we anticipate any type of HR policy changes coming to council for approval
great question,
regarding
Joe.
this?
It's contingent upon, obviously, it's going to go out today contingent upon Board of Control review. So and I'm going to defer to Sheba on that one as to whether she believes it's poised to go.
Oh, it's absolutely,
Yes.
thanks, Bob. It's
Yeah.
absolutely poised to
Okay.
go.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Ready to hit the send button.
Thank you.
One further question.
Sure.
Does the test give a binary result, either yes or no, as opposed to giving a result that could indicate like a probability?
No, it's binary, Councilman. It's either yes or no. The lines can be relatively strong or faint, but it's pretty clear from the test and the literature. If you see the second line and that they say, hey, make sure you look, because the line can be faint. Even if there's a faint line, you consider yourself positive and then take appropriate action with regard to, leaving work, getting a follow-up, maybe PCR test, which is the more sensitive and better test.
And how much does a PCR test cost?
We're trying to source that now, and we're getting 50. All right, breathe, Bob. So with regard to the PCR testing, when President Biden issued a lot of money toward providing all of us test kits, there have been some opportunities for us to get free test kits under that program. We should get a batch of 50 of the PCR tests for free. And myself, together with Brandy Carney's team, we're going to vet that program, and then make determinations as to whether or not, hey, that free test kit approach with the test kits they're providing, which happen to be a product called UBX, is an effective way to go. I don't know if HR or Stephen Witt has done any procurement around pricing of those tests, but I have not. And so I don't know their costs, especially as it relates to bulk. But free is good, and so we're exploring the free approach.
Yes, free is good. Okay, thank you.
If I could chime in real quick, we did not do any research on the PCR tests as a cost-related thing, because my understanding is those do have a couple-day turnaround period. And if we're going to move towards a weekly testing program, that's less reliable when we want to test 2,000 employees a week.
No, yeah, that's correct. We were never considering it for this program because of the parameters of the program and the medical research that we've done, just like everybody else, Board of Health, 3 of them, CDC. But the PCR test could be a really good approach for confirming those that are COVID positive, or for those that are symptomatic, but maybe not positive with regard to a rapid test. Then PCR can be an effective way to go.
And the days to get the results right now are extending because of the number of PCR tests that they're issuing. First, to get a test is getting difficult, and then to get the results back the days are getting longer right now. I'm sure that'll change, but right now it wouldn't be timely.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions? Hearing no additional questions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Nani. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-07, Department of Human Resources, submitting an amendment to a contract with GPI Enterprises Incorporated for temporary staffing services for the period October 4th, 2021 through December 31st, 2024, to expand the scope of services for COVID-19 testing services for eligible employees at various county buildings, effective upon contract signature of all parties, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $161,824.
Again, Stephen Witt with Human Resources. This is an amendment to our current temporary staffing contract with GPI Enterprises. This amendment adds additional funds as well as sets a rate for temporary COVID-19 testing staff that will be utilized at the Justice Center and possibly other county locations as needed. These staff will assist county employees with the COVID-19 rapid tests in the previous item. We anticipate 3 teams at this time to cover all the corrections shifts Monday through Friday, providing thorough coverage during the work week. This amendment adds enough funding for up to 6 months of these temporary staffing teams if needed. And again, the testing program is evolving and will be a learning experience. So we have sufficient funding to make changes as needed to make sure our testing policy succeeds.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing no questions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Nani. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-08, Department of Information Technology, submitting an amendment to a contract with iData Consulting Services Incorporated for maintenance and support on the Synapse Publisher Web Contact Management System for the period August 20th, 2012 through December 31st, 2021, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2023, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $13,850.
Good afternoon, Janelle Green, Department of IT. This is an amendment with the iData Consulting Services, Inc. group. They allow us to provide web content management for our websites that are on the older platform. This contract is to extend the time frame for the contract to allow us to finish up the transition of our web pages to our new platform and eventually sunset the Synapse systems.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
Yes.
Councilman Miller?
How does the cost compare with what we're currently paying?
It is equivalent to what we've been paying. We haven't had to raise the rates or anything like that. It is on a time and materials contract, so it has not increased.
And when you complete the transition to the new system, is this contract going to be no longer needed?
That is correct.
And is it possible that that could happen prior to 12/31/2023?
Yes, that is possible, that we can get moving on this and end that transition prior to that that end date.
And if that occurs, can we end this contract early and only use part of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Any additional questions? Hearing no additional questions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-09, Department of Information Technology, submitting an amendment to a contract with Surety Systems Incorporated for staff augmentation services for the stabilization of the Enterprise Resource Planning System for the period May 3rd, 2021 through May 2nd, 2022, to extend the time period to June 30th, 2022, to expand the scope of services to include Enterprise Resource Planning System implementation activities effective upon contract signature of all parties, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $266,618.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. Surety Systems was brought in, as Sharon stated, to provide staff augmentation services for the stabilization portion of the ERP project. As noted in previous presentations to council, this contract will be expanding to provide implementation services, and the entire $266,618 would be for the ERP general fund portion of that project.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Councilman Baker?
Thank you. And just so I understand, the 787,000 that was given to us in our presentation, is this 266,000 deducted from that? Or is this not the same?
There would be some portion of this that would come from that. What we did do is to transition some funding from what was originally earmarked for hardware and use some of that funding to apply to this contract, and the remainder of that would be applied for the new allocation request, or excuse me, appropriation request of the $787,000.
Do we know how much of the 787,000 is being deducted?
I don't have that on me currently, but I can provide that to you after the meeting, if that is okay.
And I think in prior Board of Control meetings, whenever we reference back to a presentation that we had on the ERP, I thought we were going to see, kind of a brief outline of what was presented and then showing what we're deducting or what we're using it, and just kind of a recap, especially with only a portion of this being used of the 787. I think we should know how much of that 266,000 is either implementation or operational.
The full $266,000 is implementation.
It is.
But yes, but if there is some kind of chart that needs to be provided to council, I will work with leadership on providing that to you. So that way you have a clearer picture of what our intent is moving forward.
If I may, will the balance of the amount, whatever it is, taken from the 787, will that come back to Board of Control to further work on that number, dwindle it down, or how are you thinking this money will be spent?
I can't speak directly to that. I am not the one that typically makes those decisions on how that moves forward. But what I can do is to get that information from leadership in order to provide you a clearer answer. I don't want to speak out of turn on that.
Okay. Okay. I mean, in your backup answers, you have services will include but not limited to. I don't know whether that was that part of the 787,000, those specific services that are listed here, or is that a mix of the two, or?
The services that are listed were pulled directly from the original contract.
Okay.
Now, the original contract, it stated it was specifically for the stabilization, making sure the modules that were already implemented and using were functioning. Now we have to do that also on the implementation end. So when we're talking about payroll and WFM, we want to make sure that it is functioning correctly. So we have to do test scripts. We have to do testing in the system to ensure that when this is rolled out to all of the users, it is functional and can be used. So when we talk about support tickets from the internal ERP staff, as they see errors coming up in the system, they want to be able to work with this group in order to be able to triage and fix those issues, but also work with the N4 team to be able to escalate those issues up and be able to triage and fix those issues as well. So when we have those services listed, it's a difference of what's in the stabilization part, again, the modules that were already rolled out, versus the implementation part, or the modules that have not yet been pushed out to the general employees.
Okay, if I may just ask, I guess it would be important to know of the 787,000 that we were presented as needed, and now it's being kind of carved up in your ask for 266. What part of that 787 is actually being used for the purposes that was given in the presentation that we received? And if I could get that from you.
Oh, sure, we can get that. we can provide that to you, but it is going to be used for the intention that we set forth. However, it's going to be broken up over multiple contracts. So Surety is the first of the contracts to be brought to you today. But again, I can provide that documentation in cooperation with IT leadership to get that out to you for more information.
Okay. I guess I would just want to be sure that the 787,000 that we were given a presentation for that says this is what we need in order to complete this by, I think it might have been the end of March, that number, as it dwindles, we don't come back for more because there were reasons why that number was needed to be deducted. The piecemeal piece of it is a little concerning. If you could have a running total maybe of deducting from that 787 every time you take away from it, that would be helpful. Does that sound right?
We can do that.
Okay.
We
Thank
can
you.
do that as part of our financial reporting.
I appreciate it.
So
Thank you.
is this going to be approved pending this information, or do you want to pull it? I mean, we can hold it. It's because it's not till May, right?
I meet on a weekly basis with Andy Johnson. I can follow up with him on Thursday when I meet with him.
Okay.
To get this type of report on a regular basis if you want me to do that.
Yeah, I just think that it's important given, I mean, it's a big number, 787, and we start deducting from it in pieces, somehow, you know, we lose control of what that 787 was for in the presentation we were given originally. And if this is in fact how it was intended to be used, a little bit at a time, we should at least know the pieces and parts of how we get to zero by the time this is over.
That was my understanding when he talked to us, that it was multiple vendors that'll be coming through to get them to hopefully the end.
We can get that running total.
Yes.
Councilman Miller?
Could we,
Yeah.
could we all be included in any of the reports that you're sending to Nan?
Sure.
And,
Sure, I would send out to everyone.
and also, I would note that this not only extends the time period to 6/30/2022, but it also appears to immediately expand the scope of services so that it can be used for implementation as opposed to stabilization. And for that reason, I don't think we should hold it because they're on a tight timetable to meet the beginning of their planned WFM and payroll cutover on March 13th. And so I would like to see this approved today.
Great. Any additional questions? Councilwoman Baker?
Unless we ask the question about how these funds were being used, I don't see in the ask or in the backup that this is being deducted from that 787. So as we continue on and we keep deducting from the total, if there could always be a chart that shows where we were, what's been deducted, and what is left, would really be helpful. In case we don't ask the question and we approve it not really knowing where we stand. Is that fair? Thank you.
Okay, that is understood. And usually with the reporting that we do provide, we do have where we indicate where a new appropriation was received, and we indicate that in the report. And so once the 787 appropriation is approved and included into the ERP implementation budget, we will denote that in reporting moving forward.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-10, Department of Information Technology submitting an amendment to a contract with Sherwell Software LLC for a cloud-based IT service desk management application for the period December 31st, 2016 through December 30th, 2021, to extend the time period to December 30th, 2026, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $405,471.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. To make a correction on this particular one, Sharon, the contract number is actually now 2162, as contract number 273 had an error in the system. So again, the new contract number is 2162. Sharewell is our ticketing platform for the IT service desk. And this was originally procured via RFP in 2016. And written into that particular contract was one additional amendment for another 5-year term. And we are bringing that forward to you for approval. The increases were about 4% in terms of the rate in which we are being charged. A couple of licenses and that we procured since the original contract had a higher rate of increase due to the nature, and it's a little bit different than what we originally procured. But that is the reason for the 4% increase in pricing for this 5-year period. If there are any questions.
Any questions? Okay, hearing no questions, I make a motion to approve with amended contract number. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-11, Department of Information Technology, submitting an amendment to a contract with Sterling Data Center LLC, doing business as Blue Bridge Networks for lease of space located at 1255 Euclid Avenue, Cleveland, to house and maintain county-owned fiber and 5 server racks for the period November 1st, 2013 through December 31st, 2021, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2023, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $271,617.60.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. Blue Bridge serves as the location for our internet terminations, and again, the county fiber or internet runs that go to that building. We are requesting a 2-year time frame to allow us to not only draft an RFP, but to also post and also evaluate those RFPs if we were to change to a different location than the Blue Bridge building. But this, we are requesting to maintain at least a 2-year presence in that building to allow us time to draft those RFPs.
Are there any questions? Councilman Miller?
So, how serious and how likely is it that we would move to a different location? I thought this was kind of something that was ongoing and pretty well set.
Yes, it has been set for a while, but when we talk about, incidents and like an emergency management incidents, it would behoove us to make sure that we could have a location that is possibly on a different power grid in case we have room for expansion and things like that. Our CTO, Andy Moles, has been looking into that extensively over probably the last year. Andy is on the line, and perhaps you could jump in to answer that question.
I am. Councilman Miller, Andy Bowles, Deputy Chief Technology Officer. Yes, I mean, when we look at the assessment of the building and the age of the building and the power grids, and we always want to be proactive in making sure that we have a newer, stable, redundant buildings that could service us better. There will be some engineering, you are correct. I mean, it's not, likelihood would be very difficult since all of our county fiber resides in there, but we're also working on a strategic direction to move some of these locations off that fiber. But it is a building to be concerned about, and we're always looking to make sure that we're doing best for the county, making sure we got the correct buildings in place. Strategically, the architecture is gonna be more economical, more cost efficient for our users and for our equipment. So we are looking into it, but at this present time, they are serving the county well. It's just that, you know, we always want to be a little bit proactive and make sure that, you know, as years pass, that building stays erected and there's no issues there, you know, long term.
So if we made a change, would we be talking about moving the whole operation to a new location, or would we be talking about keeping this location but adding some additional locations that would also provide similar capabilities?
Well, that's very interesting. We're looking at both. There's a possibility of both, depending on the economics. So there's a chance that we could pull all the equipment out with the right topology and the right fiber and the wiring that needs to be done. That's a possibility of moving it out, going to another facility that's local. But there's also the option of keeping that building and looking at another location where we can build our DR better, where it is local, but it is in a different power grid. We were looking at a facility south of Cleveland in the Seven Hills neighborhood that is totally on a separate power, different facilities to support circuits for vendors that can come in economically. It's updated, it's new, so and it's in driving distance. So we can easily go out there and do some preventive maintenance and you know, make sure we're not driving an hour and 45 minutes away. So we're looking at all different options, Councilman.
Okay, bottom line, nothing is forever. Thanks for the update.
Yeah, you're welcome. Technology changes so drastic, so fast. We have to be a couple steps ahead.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-12, Department of Information Technology, recommending an award on requisition 7684 and enter into a contract with TEC Communications Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $367,374 for wide area network Smartnet maintenance services for the period January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2024.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. This item was procured via an RFP that was posted for about a month. We sent it out to 12 vendors and received 2 proposals back. TEC's was the most comprehensive and complete proposal that we got. The Smartnet maintenance services is a program that would allow us to get maintenance on Cisco products after the original maintenance term when we originally procured those items. So Cisco could provide some maintenance and on wear and tear of the equipment that we had purchased from providers beforehand. And this particular time, it was significantly cheaper than what we had procured the last term. And that's due to the transition and the age of the equipment that we had under the original term. Once the Cisco items are no longer serviced by Cisco, we would transition them out of that smart maintenance program.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Councilman Baker?
I'm just noting on the backup that it's noted the project is new to the county. It's not really new, it's just a different supplier?
It's actually the same supplier that we had the last time, so that one was an unfortunate misstatement.
Okay, so that's an error? All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Hearing no additional questions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-13, Department of Information Technology, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to MNJ Technologies Direct Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $27,150 for a state contract purchase of 30 additional HP Business desktop computers and related accessories for the Personnel Review Commission's testing lab, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. The purchase of these 30 desktop computers is on behalf of the PRC. Again, as Sharon stated, this would be in support of their testing lab for those that go into the PRC for classified testing.
Thank you. Are there questions on this item? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Nani. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-14, Department of Workforce Development, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Manufacturing Works in the amount not to exceed $80,598 for an incumbent worker apprenticeship program in manufacturing for 30 eligible participants for the period January 18th, 2022 through June 30th, 2022, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Frank Brickner, Department of Workforce Development. We're seeking approval. This is going to be federally funded under the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, and this is an allowable service as we have two customers, both individuals, job seekers, and those who have employment, as well as employers. As I said, it's a specifically allowable service. We're working with Manufacturing Works, who is a nonprofit organization that assists manufacturing companies. They help companies find talent, retain talent, and assist them with training opportunities. For this initiative, they are helping manufacturing companies provide apprenticeships for their existing workforce. This will help the individual employee learn additional skills, earn additional wages, and get promoted, while helping the employer with efficiency and making them more competitive. It is anticipated that approximately 10 to 12 manufacturing companies will be assisted and 30 employees within their workforce will be trained. And with our dollars, there is a mandatory match federal requirement. We're going to be paying for the classes at Cuyahoga Community College and Lorain Community College for this initiative. The employers, their share of the match, which is allowable, they will be paying the employees while they're sitting in class, and they will be also paying a small fee to Manufacturing Works to coordinate everything here to get the individual enrolled in training and get the right classes.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Councilwoman Baker?
Just to be clear, the 80,000, I think I heard you say, was directly paid to Tri-C, is that right?
Yeah, yes, it's all tuition costs. We will be paying Manufacturing Works, who will pay Tri-C and Lorain County Community College. The vast majority will go to Tri-C.
Tri-C, and then the other 80,000, the match, is that right? So we're talking about 160,000 for the program?
Yes.
Okay.
Employers are going to be paying, they're mandated to pay their employee while the employee is in school. And that is an allowable source of match under our federal legislation.
Is that a seamless payment from what they were making and then going into class would be the same amount of money?
Yes, it is the same amount of money.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-15, Court of Common Pleas Corrections Planning Board, recommending an award and enter into an agreement with Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board of Cuyahoga County in the amount not to exceed $160,000 for residential level of care services for dually diagnosed men for the period July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2023.
Good afternoon, Marty Murphy for the Corrections Planning Board. We are looking to enter into this agreement with the Adams Board to access their network of providers. This particular an award to them is for offenders who present with a co-occurring disorder. Generally, it's mental health and substance use, and the Adams Board is able to facilitate the obtaining of beds for these folks while they're in treatment.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-16, Court of Common Pleas Corrections Planning Board, recommending an award and enter into an agreement with Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities in the amount not to exceed $64,400 for forensics jail liaison services for the Cuyahoga County Offenders with Developmental Disabilities Program for the period July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2023.
Marty Murphy again. This particular agreement with the Board of Developmental Disabilities facilitates having a mental health liaison or a developmental disability liaison in the jail. A lot of the people with developmental disabilities that are in the justice system are frequent flyers. They will be in and out of the system. The liaison identifies them and then links them into community-based services where at that point, the Board of Developmental Disabilities is paying for the services.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-17, Court of Common Pleas Corrections Planning Board, recommending an award and enter into an agreement with Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board of Cuyahoga County in the amount not to exceed $231,000 for intensive inpatient drug and alcohol treatment services for the Jail Reduction Diversion Program for the period July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2023.
Marty Murphy again. This particular agreement is it focuses on municipal offenders who are remanded to the county jail, often for 6 months. There is a county probation officer then that works with the municipal probation officers. The case gets rolled over to the county, and we provide treatment where appropriate and get those people out of the jail and into a clinical setting, thus freeing up the jail time and jail days.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Nani. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-18, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division, recommending an award and enter into agreement with City of Cleveland Heights in the amount not to exceed $18,800 for community diversion program services for the period January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2023.
Good morning, Tanika Bauer, the Juvenile Court. This is for one of our community diversion programs with the City of Cleveland Heights. And what this is to keep our youth from officially becoming involved with court or being adjudicated. And this is from our special revenue funds, which is the Title 4E that we get for reimbursements for past qualifying Title 4E expenses. The court does have discretion to use these funds, and they elected to use them for the 22 and 23, in part due to the projected reduction of members for the youth referrals resulting from the pandemic and municipalities that still have carryover balances.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-19, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with the Boys and Girls Club of Northeast Ohio for mentoring services to minority youth at East Tech High School in connection with the fiscal year 2020 Title II Formula Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Grant for the period October 1st, 2019 through March 31st, 2022, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $6,162.97.
Good afternoon, Mary Beth Vaughn from Public Safety, and this money is being reallocated to another provider who is unable to deliver services due to the ongoing impact of COVID. The Boys and Girls Club is going to do an expansion of its current program. They're going to do a teen challenge where they'll engage 10 teens to do one of two projects, either a community impact project or a social media project. And the teens will be responsible for developing the concepts, the goals, working on the projects as group, and then designing the project execution plans and actually coming to completing the project. In exchange, the teens will earn $50 stipends twice a month, and in addition, they will receive a $100 completion bonus.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-20, Prosecutor's Office submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to MNJ Technologies Direct Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $6,956 for a state contract purchase of NetApp disk drives for storage of video evidence, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good afternoon. This is Pete Seghetti with the County Prosecutor's Office. This purchase is just for a one-time purchase for additional hardware for our NetApp storage system. It's just extra space to allow us to house the increase in body cam, dash, surveillance, video, and cell phone dumps.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-21, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Children and Family Services, recommending an award and enter into a contract with Charter Communications Operating LLC, doing business as Spectrum Reach, in the amount not to exceed $39,950 for digital advertising and search placement services to recruit, foster, and adoptive parents for children in custody for the period January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022.
Good afternoon, Paul Porter, Health and Human Services on behalf of the Division of Children and Family Services. This is an award recommendation on an informal bid specifically for targeted search placement services. DCFS intends to move away from digital advertising with this new contract and focus exclusively on the search placement services. The reasoning behind that is the contract will allow us to target people who are already searching for the terms like foster parenting or adoption, as opposed to spending funds on advertising to individuals who may or may not already have an interest in providing those services. This is to help, recruit additional families to serve as either foster parents or adoptive parents for kids in DCFS custody. And our request to the vendor is that the county's DCFS website would appear as one of the top 3 search results 80% of the time when folks in this area are searching for foster parenting or adoption, and that these activities would generate at least 100 clicks per month onto our website. The bid did go out to all 18 entities that are registered as advertising services in the county's Infor system. We did only receive one response, and based on an advanced question from council, we will explore if we bid this out in the future, seeing what we can do to try and reach folks who may not be registered in the supplier portal in Infor. I also want to note that this contract is valued at the same amount for this year as it was for the contract last year, and that's $39,950.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Councilwoman Baker?
In reading the purpose, it does state for digital advertising, but you're saying that we're getting away from that? Yeah, what is, how?
Correct. Thank you, Councilwoman Baker. That was an error on the paperwork on our end when we submitted it. I think it was kind of a holdover from the last time we did this. So that's why I wanted to make sure, after talking with DCFS last week about it based on the advanced questions, that I made sure to note this is focused on the search piece.
If I may too, Paul, it says on the backup, the services being provided are digital video advertising with flights from January through December targeting children and families. Is that too in error?
Correct. That was the holdover from last time. So that language just was not updated by our team. I think some old language was recycled.
So this is all for search placement services?
For the search placement services piece, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-22, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Senior and Adult Services, recommending an award and enter into a contract with Charter Communications Operating LLC, doing business as Spectrum Reach, in the amount not to exceed $23,256 for targeted digital display and video advertising services to promote services available from the Division of Senior and Adult Services for the period January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022.
Good afternoon, Paul Porter, Health and Human Services on behalf of the Division of Senior and Adult Services. This is an award for digital display and digital video advertising, and it's specifically targeted at women ages 35 to 75 in Cuyahoga County throughout calendar year 2022. This advertising is meant to raise awareness about the programs and services offered by the Division of Senior and Adult Services. And by targeting this specific age group and demographic, we're trying to capture both seniors who may be interested in services, as well as their caregivers or family members who may be looking for resources or services for seniors in their lives. These ads may appear on things like your desktop computer, a laptop, or a handheld device like a phone or tablet. Since we're switching from 9 months of advertising last year to 12 months this year, we might have anticipated a cost increase of 25% since we're effectively getting 3 additional months of advertising. However, this contract's only 21% higher than what the contract with the same vendor was last year. And on this item, we did receive 2 bids, but the second bid was much higher. It was approximately $36,000 versus the $23,256 bid that we're recommending today.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Councilman Miller?
Is this item entirely for digital advertising, or does this have some aspect of that search placement services that we had on the last one?
Thank you, Councilman Miller. This one is actually just for the advertising piece. We do have similar functionality in terms of a dashboard to see who's viewing the ads, whether they view the full ad, whether there's a click through to the website, and the ads are 2 different distinct types. There would either be a digital display ad, which basically is a static picture or banner that has information about DSAS and kind of a click here for more information, or a video ad that actually would play as you're scrolling through a website on your computer. So this has 2 types of ads.
Any additional questions?
Two questions, Paul. The first one is, this is just for the advertising. Who actually puts together the content for these ads?
Sure. Thanks, Joe. The content can be put together by HHS Communications, but the contract also permits a certain amount of what the vendor calls creative content, so that they can help us with content for it. Okay. So it's not only about putting the ad out there, there is a content piece of it as well.
Okay. And then do you happen to know, like, any specific service areas that senior and adult wants to focus on with this campaign or this process?
Sure. So I know last year we really tried to get the word out more about our options programming. I can try and find out specifically what they think they might advertise in the coming years. I know that food insecurity has been kind of a hot button issue for DSAS, and especially as we've expanded the number of CSSP sites that are doing food services, that might be a targeted area, but I don't want to speak out of turn because we weren't necessarily privy to the exact content at this point. We were more just seeking out the vendor who could deliver the services. If you'd like, I can have HHS Communications follow up with council on that, though.
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Moving on to the consent agenda, items BC 2022-23 through 26.
Okay, let's take a moment to review the items. Are there any questions on the consent agenda items?
I just have a quick question. Do we get the list of what's going on, the gov deals, the surplus? There used to be a list. I thought we would see. Cars, it's cars. No, I'm not looking for, I just wondered because again, some of them are public works. I just wonder when they get on here.
I don't think we've included that in the past, but we can get you the list.
Maybe she just would show it to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If there are no questions, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda items. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to the next item.
We have other business, one-time sensitive mission critical, item BC 2022-27, Department of Public Works, recommending an award on a purchase order to Risa Power LLC in the amount not to exceed $6,823 for the replacement, repair, and re-racking of an electrical breaker at the Justice Center Tower 2.
Good afternoon, Matt Reimer with the Department of Public Works. This was a mission critical time sensitive item in late November of 2021 where we had a failed 800 amp circuit breaker in the main switchgear of Tower 2, the former police headquarters building, that eliminated power from the 4th floor down. This mission critical rectified that problem permanently.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
Just one quick one. Did our own electrical folks install that, or did we hire a firm?
So on that one, Joe, I believe that's a medium voltage breaker that we're able to rack in and rack out, but the testing of it and then the rehabilitation of the breaker and finding a 47-year-old compatible breaker was what this vendor performed.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve this mission critical item. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Any public comment?
No public comment.
Hearing there's no public comment, I make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. We're adjourned. Thank you.